For the 100th time, she awoke alone. The metallic ceiling of her imperial quarters stretched above an indifferent sky. 5 years. 5 years confined to a world of alien grandeur, under the watchful eyes of a husband more feared than revered. Elara Reed, human consort, felt the silent hum of the Omega-7 station in her bones, a constant reminder of her gilded cage. But today felt different. A tremor beneath the polished facade of diplomacy, a whisper of a secret about to ignite a galaxy. In the vast silence between stars, a human woman finds herself a prisoner of cosmic ambition. Bound by an unbreakable vow, she navigates a treacherous alien court, searching for answers hidden behind the obsidian eyes of her tyrannical husband. What unspeakable truth lies at the heart of their fragile alliance? And what price will she pay to uncover it? Before we delve into this epic tale, tell us in the comments, where in the world, or galaxy, are you watching from today? Now, prepare yourselves, because the silent orbit is about to shatter. The cool, metallic sheen of the imperial bedroom ceiling was the first thing Elara Reed saw, as it had been for 5 years. Each morning, the same sterile perfection, the same silent hum of the Omega-7 station, a constant, low thrum against the bone. She was a human, a diplomatic consort, yet the heavy weight of her existence felt less like a title and more like an anchor. Her red hair splayed across the synthetic pillows, a stark splash of color in a world designed in shades of blue and silver. Her intense blue eyes, once filled with the boundless curiosity of an Earth Space Academy scientist, now held a deep-seated weariness, a knowledge of an unseen prison. She pushed herself up, the movement fluid despite the lingering ache of a night spent in restless solitude. The bedroom was vast, an expanse of polished alloys and energy-efficient light panels that cast no shadows, leaving no secrets unspoken, no corner for solace. Her bare feet touched the cool, smooth floor, a sensation she had grown accustomed to, though her body still longed for the organic give of Earth's soil. Before the quantum crystal mirror, Elara examined her reflection. The woman staring back was 32, but time on Nexus had etched subtle changes. Not just the faint, almost imperceptible luminescence beneath her skin, tiny bioimplants that continuously monitored her health, her vitals, her very essence, reporting back to the station's omnipresent systems. They were a gift, Zephyr had once claimed, a testament to Nexian technological prowess. To Elara, they were another link in her invisible chains, a constant reminder that she was owned, observed. Her soul, she knew, had altered too, adapting to the cold vacuum of diplomatic pretense, hardening against the emotional void of her marriage. This alliance, forged in the fires of interstellar negotiation, had long since cooled into a frigid, personal confinement. The door to her quarters slid open with a whisper of displaced air. Zephyr. He never knocked, never announced his presence. He simply was. His towering frame, nearly 2 meters of sculpted, luminescent blue skin, filled the doorway. His eyes, completely black, reflected nothing, absorbing all light, all emotion. He was a being of stark, terrifying beauty, his authority as tangible as the heavy air of the station. Today is the day of renewal ceremony, Zephyr announced, his voice a grave, resonant hum that vibrated through the room's carefully calibrated silence. Your presence is mandatory. The words were not an invitation, nor even a request. They were an absolute command, delivered with the same detached certainty he might use to dictate the orbital trajectory of a moon. Elara's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She turned from the mirror, meeting his gaze not with defiance, but with a carefully constructed mask of compliance. She nodded, a gesture devoid of true assent. Mandatory, always. The annual ceremony, a Nexian tradition where cosmic vows were renewed and allegiances reaffirmed before the entire Nexian elite, had always been a tedious charade for her. But this year, a flicker of desperate hope ignited within her. She knew, with chilling certainty, that this would be her only chance. Her only window to access the central core, the sprawling computational brain of Omega-7 that governed every aspect of the station, including the long-silenced communications with Earth. The silence had been absolute for months, a deliberate severing. She suspected, with a cold dread that had festered in her heart, that Zephyr was concealing something catastrophic. The Grand Assembly Hall shimmered with the energy of 1,000 Nexian dignitaries. Holographic projections of constellations spun above them, casting shifting patterns of starlight across their ornate robes and shimmering skin. Zephyr, at the apex of the central dais, conducted the ancient rituals with practiced grace, his metallic voice echoing with pronouncements of cosmic harmony and eternal dominion. His eyes, usually unreadable abysses, seemed to gleam with a strange, almost fervent light as he performed the sacred rites, reaffirming the Nexian coalition's power over this sector of the galaxy. Elara stood among the consorts, a striking anomaly in her crimson silk gown, her human features a sharp contrast to the elegant alien physiognomy around her. Her outward demeanor was one of serene attentiveness, but her mind raced, calculating angles, memorizing patterns, searching for the precise moment. As Zephyr raised his hands in a grand invocation, drawing the collective gaze of the entire assembly, Elara made her move. Her bioimplants, usually a source of unease, now provided an unexpected advantage. Subtle and almost invisible, a small, multi-tool microscanner integrated into her wrist implant extended with a barely audible click. With a fluid, practiced motion, honed by years of diplomatic receptions and covert observation, she reached out, her fingers brushing against a peripheral terminal panel embedded in the ornate wall. It was a secondary access point to the central core's vast network, usually restricted to maintenance personnel but occasionally left unguarded during high-security, high-distraction events like this. The Nexian security, focused on external threats and internal protocol, rarely considered their human consort a threat. A faint green light pulsed on her wrist as the microscanner bypassed the local encryption. She didn't have much time. Her intense blue eyes scanned the rapidly scrolling data, filtering through reams of bureaucratic code and administrative logs. Her breath hitched in her throat as a single, damning file flashed across her internal display, projected directly into her retina by the sophisticated implant. It was an executive order, sealed with Zephyr's unmistakable sigil. Her heart, a drum against her ribs, hammered a frantic rhythm. Selective bombardment of 5 major Earth cities. The words blurred for a moment, then snapped into agonizing focus. Her hometown, Seattle, was listed among the targets. The attack was scheduled to commence in 12 hours. The official justification, cold and clinical, scroll ING across the data stream, ideological contamination and threat to Nexian cultural purity. A suffocating wave of horror washed over her, freezing her in place. The humming of the station, the hushed reverence of the Nexian ceremony, the very air around her, all seemed to vanish, replaced by the chilling silence of her own internal scream. This wasn't a suspicion anymore. It was a brutal, undeniable truth. Later, in Zephyr's private quarters, the air crackled with a tension that threatened to ignite the very molecules. Elara confronted him, her voice, usually so controlled, trembling with a raw fury she hadn't known she possessed. The holographic display of the executive order still shimmered between them, a silent accusation in the opulent room. Zephyr, lounging on a graviton-cushioned chaise, showed no surprise. No anger. Only that cold, calculating calm that was his signature. You found it. It wasn't a question. He made no attempt to deny the order, nor the impending massacre. His black eyes, devoid of any discernible emotion, locked onto hers. Why, Zephyr? Elara demanded, her voice rising. Why attack innocent cities? Seattle, my home, what possible justification could there be? He steepled his long, metallic-tipped fingers. The Earth has become a threat, Elara. His voice was low, resonating with a chilling finality. You humans are like a virus. You spread, you adapt, you corrupt. Your ideological fervor, your uncontained growth, your relentless expansion, it destabilizes the delicate balance of the galaxy. It threatens the purity of Nexian culture, the very fabric of our existence. He spoke as if discussing a blight on a distant planet, not the planned annihilation of millions of lives. A preemptive strike was necessary. A surgical excision to prevent a galactic epidemic. Elara stared at him, unable to comprehend such callous logic. "And what about me?" she whispered, the question laced with a profound sense of betrayal. "Your consort? Your wife?" A faint, almost imperceptible tilt of his head. "And you, my dear, unfortunately became dispensable." The words were delivered with the same detached finality. Our union was intended to forge an alliance, yes, but also to produce heirs. Hybrid progeny, strong enough to consolidate my power over both worlds, to bridge the divide. His gaze swept over her, a clinical assessment. "You failed to deliver. 5 years and no issue. Our purpose has run its course." Before Elara could process the crushing weight of his pronouncement, before she could even formulate a scream or a protest, the door to the quarters hissed open again. 2 Nexian guards, their forms clad in dark, segmented armor, their movements precise and synchronized, entered without a word. Their neural implants ensured absolute obedience, their loyalty to Zephyr unwavering. Zephyr rose from the chaise, his imposing figure casting a long shadow over Elara. His voice, now echoing with the undeniable authority of a supreme ruler, filled the room. By order of the Nexian coalition, he began, his tone as even as if he were discussing the weather patterns of Nexus, and for acts of high treason against the sovereign authority, Elara Reed shall be exiled. He paused, allowing the words to hang in the air, heavy with their irreversible consequence. Exiled to the mining asteroid ZT-42, where she shall serve as a laborer until the end of her days. He offered a small, almost imperceptible smile, a flash of something akin to dark amusement in his otherwise emotionless face. "Consider yourself fortunate, Elara. I could have ordered your immediate execution, but our shared history, brief and unproductive as it was, deserves this more poetic outcome." The guards advanced, their movements swift and efficient. Elara didn't fight. She couldn't. The world had just tilted on its axis, her carefully constructed reality shattering around her. Zephyr's chilling betrayal, the impending destruction of her home, her own swift and cold dismissal, it was too much to comprehend. As the guard's metallic grip closed around her arms, she looked into Zephyr's black, unfeeling eyes. In that moment, surrounded by the echoes of a life now irrevocably lost, a single, burning thought crystallized in the deepest core of her being. This is not over. And within that thought, the seeds of a vengeance, cold and calculated as Zephyr's own ambition, began to take root. The shift from her gilded cage to the raw, unrefined hell of ZT-42 was immediate and brutal. One moment, Elara was being dragged through Omega-7's sterile corridors. The next, she was shoved through a pressure lock that sealed behind her with sickening finality. The mining asteroid, ZT-42, was a desolate expanse of perpetual twilight, choked by fine, abrasive dust. A dull, crimson glow permeated the atmosphere, reflecting off jagged crystalline formations. The air thrummed with the ceaseless roar of industrial drills and seismic charges, a constant reminder of the planetoid's sole purpose, the extraction of nexonium, the luminous, highly unstable mineral that powered the Nexian coalition. This was a place of punishment, a graveyard for the unwanted. Here, political prisoners and undesirables toiled in coarse fatigues, their bodies broken, their spirits under constant assault. Elara, her bioimplants now a mark of ownership rather than status, was no different. For 6 grueling months, she endured. Days bled into nights, marked only by the shifting of work shifts and the drone of Nexian overseers. She wielded a plasma pickaxe, chipping away at stubborn rock, her hands, once delicate from scientific pursuits, now calloused and scarred. The thin, recycled air scratched her throat, and the faint, persistent smell of ozone from the raw nexonium permeated everything. Every ache in her bones, every drop of sweat, fueled a deeper, more profound resolve. Zephyr's betrayal, the cold finality of his judgment, the impending destruction of her home cities, these memories burned within her, forging her despair into an unshakable determination. She might be here, but she was not broken. She was adapting, transforming. Her mind, honed at the Earth Space Academy, refused to be stagnant. While her body labored, her brain worked in secret, reconstructing schematics of Nexian technology, identifying vulnerabilities, plotting a way out. It was during this torment that she found Krell. A reptilian mechanic, distinguishable by his leathery, emerald-green scales and intelligent amber eyes, he was a prisoner like her, distinguished by his mechanical aptitude and a shared, simmering hatred for their Nexian captors. Their initial interaction was brief, a shared glance of understanding after Elara instinctively pointed out a critical stress fracture during a seismic stabilizer malfunction, preventing a cave-in. From that day, a silent alliance began to form. Over the ensuing weeks, hushed whispers exchanged during meager meal times solidified their bond. Elara recounted Zephyr's decree, the planned annihilation of Earth's cities, his chilling disregard for human life. Krell, whose own species had suffered under Nexian subjugation, listened with an impassive face but burning eyes. The Nexians, he hissed, the word of venomous curse, they take everything. They think they are gods. Their plan was audacious. To escape aboard a small, outdated cargo vessel, a Mule 7, used for transporting raw Nexonium. These ships were rudimentary, designed only for short-range, automated flights within the asteroid's gravitational field, never for interstellar travel. It will be a ghost in the void, Elara explained, sketching diagrams on a scrap of metal. We need to strip it, rebuild its shield emitters, reinforce the hull against deep space radiation, and override the long-range comms. My academy training focused on deep space navigation. Krell, his mind already dissecting her words, pointed out the inherent weakness of the power core. The core will not sustain long-range jumps. Too unstable. We will need to borrow more stable Nexonium from the refinery itself. The risks were astronomical, the chance of detection almost certain, but the alternative was a slow, grinding death. For 3 perilous months, their clandestine operation unfolded. Krell, with his unrestricted access to the refinery's maintenance bays, became their indispensable source. Under the guise of routine repairs, he misplaced components, scavenged spare parts, and, most critically, secured highly stable Nexonium crystals for the Mule 7's power core. Elara, leveraging her understanding of Nexian surveillance and her bioimplant's subtle interface capabilities, diverted sensor sweeps and predicted guard patrols. They worked in the shadows of the immense refinery, often silhouetted against the dangerous glow of molten Nexonium. Elara, surprisingly adept with alien tools, assisted Krell in rewiring circuits, reinforcing structural points, and installing makeshift shielding. The Mule 7 slowly transformed, its automated pilot replaced with a manual override, its fuel cells augmented, its weak sensor array upgraded. The night of the escape arrived, shrouded in the usual dust and din of ZT-42. A solar flare on Nexus had created localized atmospheric interference, offering a narrow window of reduced Nexian sensor efficacy. Ready, Elara? Krell's voice was tight, his scales shimmering with nervous energy. As I'll ever be, Elara replied, her heart a frantic drumbeat. She initiated the pre-flight sequence, her fingers flying across the repurposed console. The Mule 7, disguised as a routine Nexonium transport, lifted off from its bay, its thrusters kicking up a cloud of dust. For a glorious minute, they thought they were clear. Then the comms crackled. Unidentified cargo vessel, you are deviating from authorized flight path. Return to bay immediately. On their tactical display, 3 sleek, deadly Nexian interceptor fighters materialized, their weapons systems powering up. They've got us, Krell grunted. The Mule 7 shuddered as plasma bolts struck its reinforced shields, alarms blaring. We need a distraction. Elara yelled, frantically weaving through an asteroid field. Krell's amber eyes met hers, a silent, terrible understanding passing between them. The main refinery, he stated, his voice calm, resolute. I know its weak points. A critical overload, it would take their sensors offline for hours. Maybe days. Krell, no. Elara cried, comprehending the ultimate sacrifice. It is the only way, he said, unbuckling his harness. Go, Elara. You must warn your world. You must avenge mine. With a sudden, desperate agility, he uploaded a detonation sequence to the refinery's core systems, then launched himself from the cockpit hatch. Live, Elara. For all of us. Elara watched, paralyzed by horror and awe, as the three Nexian fighters, momentarily confused, diverted their attention. A searing, blinding flash erupted across the asteroid's surface, followed by a concussive wave that violently shook the Mule 7. The main refinery exploded in a spectacular cascade of molten metal and superheated gases, creating a massive debris cloud that blinded Nexian sensors and disoriented the remaining fighters. Krell! Elara screamed, her voice raw. But there was no time for grief. The inferno he had created was her only chance. Wounded by the blast, her vision blurred, she gritted her teeth, pushing the Mule 7 harder than ever, plunging into the chaotic depths of the asteroid belt. The escape was a blur of adrenaline. For weeks, she drifted, a ghost in the void, relying on pre-programmed contraband routes, her resources minimal. Her injuries healed slowly, leaving faint scars, but the pain only sharpened her resolve. Zephyr believed her exiled, broken, gone. He was wrong. Elara Reed was returning. And she was bringing hell with her. The silent orbit of her personal tragedy had finally shattered, spiraling outwards towards a collision course with destiny, fueled by the memory of a reptilian mechanic and the burning image of a world in flames. The battered hull of the Mule 7 groaned its final protest as it breached Earth's atmosphere, a meteor of defiance rather than a vessel of homecoming. Weeks of deep space solitude, of navigating treacherous contraband routes and fending off the creeping paranoia of Nexian pursuit, had taken their toll on Elara Reed. Her body, scarred and emaciated, moved on pure will. Her mind, however, remained a burning crucible of vengeance. As the sickly green-brown haze of the re-entry burned away, revealing the familiar blue marble of her home world, a knot of dread tightened in her stomach. The Earth she remembered, the vibrant jewel teeming with life and light, was gone. What stretched beneath her, as the Mule 7 limped through the upper atmosphere, was a landscape of devastation, a planetary corpse. The 5 cities Zephyr had targeted were not merely damaged, they had been utterly erased. Where Seattle, her vibrant, rain-kissed hometown, once stood, there was now a sprawling, glassified crater, a silent testament to the alien tyrant's ruthless efficiency. Blackened scars marred coastlines, vast tracts of land reduced to irradiated dust. The vibrant greens of forests were replaced by sickly browns and grays, the oceans churned into an unnatural froth in places where the impact had altered the seabed. Zephyr's words echoed in her mind, a surgical excision to prevent a galactic epidemic. This was his surgery, a brutal, apocalyptic amputation. A wave of nausea, both physical and emotional, threatened to overwhelm her. Her mission, once personal, now swelled into something far grander, far more desperate. The Mule 7's life support systems flickered, its power core dangerously low. She steered it towards a faint, almost imperceptible energy signature she'd been tracking, a pattern that suggested something organized, something human, yet hidden. Her landing was less a controlled descent and more a catastrophic crash, the battered craft skidding across a desolate, cracked plain before finally tearing itself apart against a jagged rock formation. Darkness swallowed her as the impact rattled her remaining senses. She awoke to the scent of antiseptic and stale air, a stark contrast to the Nexonium dust of ZT-42. Fluorescent lights, muted and utilitarian, hummed overhead. She was in a medical bay, her body heavy with pain but carefully tended. Her eyes, still wary, scanned the unfamiliar surroundings. Concrete walls, blinking diagnostic displays, the hushed movements of medical personnel in utilitarian jumpsuits. She was alive. But where? A familiar face emerged from the shadows. Helena. Dr. Helena Chong, her former mentor at the Earth Space Academy, a brilliant xenolinguist and theoretical physicist, now older, her face etched with exhaustion and an unyielding resolve. Her usually neat hair was disheveled, streaked with more gray than Elara remembered, but her eyes, sharp and intelligent as ever, held a spark of disbelief, then profound relief, as they locked onto Elara's. Elara? My God, Elara! Helena rushed to the bedside, her voice thick with emotion, her hand reaching out to touch Elara's arm, as if to confirm her reality. We thought no one could ever return from Nexus alive. Elara's throat was dry, raw. I came back, she croaked, her voice a ghost of its former self. But Earth? Helena nodded grimly, her gaze drifting to a wall monitor displaying a muted map of the devastated planet. Zephyr's purification. 5 strikes. Synchronized. We estimate billions lost in the initial bombardments and the subsequent fallout. A pause, heavy with grief. Your city, Seattle, it was hit hardest. Elara closed her eyes, a silent tear escaping. She had seen it from orbit, but hearing it, spoken by Helena, made it agonizingly real. The memory of Krell's sacrifice, of the inferno on ZT-42, fueled her resolve anew. But we didn't surrender, Helena continued, her voice gaining a steely edge. Zephyr miscalculated. He thought annihilation would break us. Instead, it united us. We went underground. We adapted. She gestured around the vast, subterranean bunker, a hive of activity that Elara now noticed beyond her immediate medical bay. Scientists and engineers moved with purpose, their faces grim but determined. This is our primary resistance headquarters, Helena explained. Hidden deep beneath what used to be the Sierra Nevada mountains. After the attacks, we regrouped. We salvaged. We learned. She paused, her gaze intense. Over the past 6 months, we've been reverse engineering. Studying every captured Nexian artifact, every piece of salvaged tech we could get our hands on. And we've made breakthroughs, Elara. Revolutionary technology, born from their own weapons. Elara, despite her pain, felt a flicker of renewed hope. What kind of breakthroughs? We've developed energy dampeners that can interfere with their shield harmonics. Quantum processors that can scramble their targeting systems. But most importantly, Helena leaned closer, her voice dropping, we've been developing countermeasures against Omega-7 itself. Theoretical, mostly. We have schematics, intercepted data, but the missing piece was the intimate knowledge of the station, its living protocols, its hidden vulnerabilities. Helena's eyes shone with a new light, a recognition of Elara's invaluable, painful expertise. Your knowledge, Elara, your first-hand experience with their defenses, their systems, and especially their biology, it's invaluable. A game changer. Elara spent the next 3 months in a whirlwind of activity, her body slowly healing, her mind engaged with a furious intensity she hadn't felt since her academy days. She worked relentlessly alongside the diverse team of surviving scientists and military personnel, their shared grief and fierce determination forging them into a cohesive, unyielding unit. The bunker hummed with the quiet urgency of a civilization fighting for its very existence. She spent hours in holographic projection rooms, recreating Omega-7's intricate architecture from memory, detailing security protocols, surveillance blind spots, and rarely used access conduits. She meticulously explained the nuances of Nexian command structures, their cultural biases, even the specific biological weaknesses she had observed during her 5 years as Zephyr's consort. Her personal bioimplants, now recalibrated by Helena's team, became a data repository, a living archive of Nexian secrets. Her insights were crucial, accelerating the development of 2 critical weapons. The first was a sophisticated computer virus, codenamed Ares, designed to penetrate the central core of Omega-7. Elara, drawing on her memories of the core's internal structure and Zephyr's unique access codes, helped the Resistance's cyber warfare specialists refine its payload. It needs to be subtle, she insisted, not a brute force attack. It needs to mimic system updates, hide in the environmental controls, a backdoor through the very air they breathe. Her personal history with the station gave her an unparalleled understanding of its hidden flaws, its design quirks that only an occupant would know. The second weapon was an advanced biological agent, designated Nemesis. This was a far more ethically complex undertaking, but one born of sheer desperation. Elara's detailed knowledge of Nexian physiology, the specific cellular structures that govern their luminescent skin and unique respiratory systems, allowed the xenobiologists to fine-tune the agent. It has to be species-specific, she reiterated, no collateral damage to other coalition species, or to humans. Zephyr wanted purity, we will give him precision. The agent was designed to target the unique protein structures in Nexian blood that gave them their blue hue, disrupting their respiratory system and nervous functions, rendering them vulnerable without completely annihilating them. It was a weapon of incapacitation, not extermination, a strategic blow designed to level the playing field. As the 3 months drew to a close, and the development phases for Ares and Nemesis neared completion, the Resistance Council convened in the war room. The plan, meticulously crafted, was laid out on holographic displays, a coordinated attack, utilizing their new technologies aimed at Omega-7 itself. It was a bold, unprecedented gambit. The infiltration team will need to be small, agile, General Theron, a stern-faced military veteran, explained. Using our new stealth cloaking technology, they can bypass most external defenses. But once inside, the station is a fortress. And that's where I come in, Elara interjected, stepping forward, her voice firm, resolute. The scars on her hands, the weariness in her eyes, were now tempered by an unshakable resolve. I need to lead this mission. A ripple of murmurs went through the council. Helena stepped forward. Elara, we understand your personal investment, but this is a suicide mission. The odds of return are negligible. Precisely, Elara countered, meeting Helena's gaze. And that's why it has to be me. She gestured to the shimmering holographic blueprint of Omega-7. I know every ventilation shaft, every maintenance tunnel, every security blind spot. I know the shift changes, the cultural festivals they observe, the arrogant complacency of their security forces. Zephyr believes I am exiled, broken, gone forever. He will not expect me. The element of surprise, coupled with my intimate knowledge of the station, is our only advantage. Anyone else trying to navigate that labyrinth would be caught before they even reached the core. Her voice rose, filled with an undeniable authority born of her ordeal. I know Zephyr. I know Omega-7. I know their weaknesses and I know how to exploit them. This isn't just a mission, Helena. It's a personal reckoning. And I am the only one who can deliver it. The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the hum of the holographic displays. Elara's conviction was absolute, her logic undeniable. The council, though apprehensive, saw the truth in her words. She was not merely a soldier, she was an instrument of their collective vengeance, honed by Zephyr's own cruelty. She was returning to the very heart of her betrayal, a ghost haunting her past to secure humanity's future. The stage was set for a confrontation that would redefine the fate of two worlds. The experimental stealth vessel, a marvel of reverse-engineered Nexian technology and human ingenuity, was a ghost in the void. Its advanced camouflage shimmered, bending light and sensor waves around its sleek hull, rendering it virtually invisible to even the most sophisticated Nexian detection grids. Inside, the cramped cockpit hummed with a nervous energy, a stark contrast to the vast, silent expanse of space Elara had traversed on her journey back to Earth. Now, she was returning to the very heart of her torment. Elara Reed, her face etched with a grim determination, stared at the holographic projection of Omega-7, slowly expanding on her console. The station, a sprawling testament to Nexian power, seemed to mock her with its silent, arrogant perfection. This time, she wasn't arriving as a diplomat's wife, but as an infiltrator, a weapon. Her hands, calloused and scarred from the mines of ZT-42, moved with a steady, practiced precision across the controls. Every fiber of her being was focused, every memory of Omega-7's layout, its protocols, its rhythms, brought to the forefront. Their target window was the Festival of the Three Moons, a period of heightened cultural celebration on Nexus, and by extension, Omega-7. During this time, Nexian security, usually draconian, would be significantly relaxed, focused on managing the influx of dignitaries and revelers from across the coalition. It was a calculated risk, a vulnerability that Elara had intimately known from her years living within the gilded cage. As the stealth ship approached Omega-7, the station hummed with an almost festive aura. Ornate banners and shimmering light displays adorned its outer docking bays. Elara navigated the experimental vessel through a labyrinth of smaller freighters and pleasure craft, utilizing the chaos of the festival to mask her approach. The cloaking technology was flawless. She slipped into an auxiliary docking bay, her craft registering as a minor energy fluctuation before the system corrected itself, dismissing the anomaly. Stepping out of the ship, Elara felt the familiar, recycled air of Omega-7 on her skin. It was the same air she had breathed for 5 years, yet now it tasted of purpose, of retribution. She was no longer Elara Reed, human consort. She was a ghost from Zephyr's past, and she had come to haunt him. Her disguise was meticulously crafted, a masterpiece of human ingenuity and stolen Nexian biotechnology. She wore the flowing, multi-layered robes of a Lyr merchant, a common, relatively unassuming species known for their elaborate cranial tendrils and vibrant, chameleonic skin tones. Special implants, developed by Helena's team, subtly altered her skin tone to match the Lyr's typical pale violet, and her facial structure was subtly reshaped, her distinctive red hair hidden beneath a hooded cowl. Her bioimplants, now under her full control, fed her constant data, confirming her disguise held. The most challenging aspect was mimicking the Lyr's graceful, almost fluid gait, a stark contrast to Elara's more grounded human movements. She practiced for weeks, transforming her very posture into something alien and unfamiliar. She moved through the bustling corridors of Omega-7, a phantom in the crowd. The station was alive with celebration. Nexians, their blue skin shimmering under festive lights, laughed and conversed, their voices resonating with a metallic warmth. Other alien species, adorned in their own cultural garb, mingled freely. Elara navigated through the throng, her senses heightened, her internal compass guiding her through corridors that had once been her opulent prison. She remembered the hidden maintenance tunnels, the seldom-used service lifts, the precise locations of sensor-blind spots. Each turn, each passage, was a map etched into her memory, now activated with a singular, destructive purpose. Her destination was the central core, the nerve center of Omega-7. But her immediate objective was Zephyr. The virus, Ares, had to be introduced directly into a system connected to the core. She remembered a design flaw, a subtle oversight that only an attentive inhabitant would know, the environmental controls of the Hanging Garden. Due to the delicate nature of the exotic flora and fauna housed within, its climate control system had a direct, high-bandwidth connection to the central core for instantaneous atmospheric adjustments. It was the perfect conduit. The Hanging Garden was an ethereal oasis within the metallic shell of Omega-7, a testament to Nexian mastery over artificial environments. Plants from 1,000 worlds, vibrant and alien, grew in forced harmony under simulated sunlight, their intoxicating scents mingling in the artificially humid air. Waterfalls cascaded into luminous ponds, and exotic bioluminescent creatures flitted among the foliage. It was a place of serene, illusory beauty, and it was here that Elara sought Zephyr. He was there, as she expected. Standing by a shimmering pond, observing a particularly delicate orchid, his towering figure radiating an aura of untouchable power even amidst the vibrant life. 2 Nexian guards, his personal elite, stood at a respectful distance. He still moved with that arrogant grace, that detached superiority that had always grated on Elara's nerves. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of anticipation and fear. She approached slowly, her Lyr disguise holding, her movements a carefully rehearsed blend of confidence and deference. As she drew closer, Zephyr turned, his obsidian eyes locking onto her. Even through the disguise, even with the subtle alterations, the piercing intensity of his gaze was unmistakable. He knew. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk played on Zephyr's lips. "Impressive," he said, his voice a low, metallic hum, carrying only to her. He raised a hand, dismissing his guards with a subtle flick of his wrist. They melted away, leaving Elara and Zephyr alone in the verdant, artificial paradise. His confidence was absolute, unwavering. He believed himself superior, untouchable. To return here, Elara Reed, is the apex of either utter stupidity or astonishing courage. Perhaps both. Elara maintained a calculated distance, her hands clasped before her, her inner turmoil hidden behind the placid expression of her Elwar persona. "I did not return for foolishness, Zephyr," she replied, her voice modulated to a low, melodic tone, mimicking the Elwar's speech patterns. "I came for peace. The Earth is willing to negotiate." Zephyr let out a soft, metallic laugh, a chilling sound in the tranquil garden. "Negotiate? With what, my dear? Your planet is on its knees. Your cities are dust. What leverage do you possess?" His black eyes seemed to pierce through her disguise, directly into her soul, but he saw only the surface, the expected desperation of a defeated enemy. His arrogance was a shield and a blind spot. As their conversation unfolded, the device hidden within her ornate Elwar bracelet worked silently, diligently. With a nearly invisible flick of her wrist, Elara activated a microscopic emitter, releasing the Ares virus into the garden's advanced environmental system. The microscopic nanobots, designed to appear as benign atmospheric purifiers, floated invisibly on the artificial breezes, silently seeking out the direct conduits to the central core. This was the critical flaw she had remembered. For reasons of climate control and rapid atmospheric adjustments, the garden system was one of the few sections of Omega-7 connected directly and without redundant firewalls to the core. The virus, now dispersed, would lie dormant, spreading through the core's systems, until she activated its final trigger. "Humans possess a quality you never understood, Zephyr," Elara said, her voice steady, moving subtly between the exotic plants, ensuring she remained upwind of him, her eyes subtly tracking the environmental vents. "Adaptability. It is what keeps us alive when all indicators suggest we should perish." "Adaptability or stubborn ignorance?" Zephyr countered, his tone laced with amusement, completely oblivious to the silent threat permeating the air around them. He took a step closer, his luminescent blue skin reflecting the soft, ambient light of the garden. "You clung to your planet even as it became a vector of instability. A foolish, emotional attachment." A tense verbal duel ensued, each word a parry, a thrust, beneath which the real battle unfolded. Zephyr, still convinced of his total victory, reveled in his intellectual superiority, enjoying the prolonged confrontation, the chance to gloat. But Elara's words, her carefully chosen observations, began to chip away at his complacency. He watched her, his expression shifting, a flicker of something unreadable in his black eyes. He noticed the slight, almost imperceptible way her fingers hovered near her bracelet, the subtle shift in her posture, the intensity of her gaze. A seed of doubt, tiny but persistent, began to sprout in his calculated mind. His eyes widened, his lips parting in a sudden, dawning comprehension. "No," he breathed, the realization dawning too late. He scanned the verdant beauty of the garden, then his gaze snapped back to her bracelet. The air. The environmental system. He lunged forward, a sudden, explosive burst of speed that belied his earlier composure. But Elara was ready. With a decisive, practiced movement, faster than his desperate lunge, she activated the secondary device hidden in her other wrist. A microscopic cloud of the Nemesis biological agent, contained within a burst dispersal unit, instantly filled the air between them. The effect was immediate, terrifyingly swift. Zephyr, caught mid-stride, stumbled. His luminescent blue skin, moments ago vibrant, began to darken, a sickly purplish hue spreading rapidly across his face and hands. He gasped, a harsh, rattling sound as the agent attacked his unique respiratory system, seizing his lungs. He fell to his knees, his immense frame collapsing with a thud that echoed through the otherwise silent garden. His obsidian eyes, now wide with shock and pain, stared up at Elara, trying to comprehend the impossible. "What, ton?" he choked, his voice raw, metallic, and suddenly very, very human. The Supreme Governor, brought low in his own paradise. His arrogance, his confidence, had been his undoing. And Elara, the exiled human consort, stood over him, her vengeance finally within reach. Zephyr fell to his knees, his immense, blue-skinned form collapsing with a heavy thud onto the meticulously sculpted soil of the hanging garden. His obsidian eyes, once so cold and utterly devoid of emotion, now widened with shock and a dawning, terrible comprehension. A sickly purplish hue, the venomous work of the Nemesis agent, spread rapidly across his luminescent skin, stealing its vibrant glow. He gasped, a harsh, rattling sound as the biological weapon seized his unique respiratory system, suffocating him from within. He choked, his voice raw, metallic, and suddenly stripped of its imperial resonance. The Supreme Governor, brought low in his own artificial paradise, was reduced to a struggling, dying creature. Elara stood over him, her face a mask of grim satisfaction, a stark contrast to the placid Elwire merchant she had pretended to be. The triumph, sharp and intoxicating, surged through her veins. This was for Seattle. This was for Krell. This was for every innocent life Zephyr had casually extinguished. The vengeance she had nursed in the dust of ZT-42, the desperate hope she had clung to in the void, was finally here, within her grasp. With a final, decisive movement, her finger pressing the concealed trigger on her bracelet, Elara activated the last stage of the Ares virus. The microbots, already spread deep within Omega-7's central core through the garden's environmental system, woke. The very air around them seemed to crackle with an unseen energy. Suddenly, the ethereal calm of the hanging garden shattered. Overhead, the simulated sunlight flickered, plunging the paradise into momentary shadow before pulsing back with a stark, emergency red. A low, ominous hum vibrated through the station's substructure, growing louder, more frantic. Throughout Omega-7, lights began to blink erratically, then failed altogether in sections, leaving vast swathes of corridors in darkness. Automated doors, usually gliding with silent efficiency, began to open and close randomly, trapping some, freeing others. Then, the alarms began to wail, a discordant symphony of piercing, synthesized cries that echoed through the vast station, signaling chaos, pandemonium. It was a calculated breakdown, designed not for total destruction, but for absolute disarray. This pandemonium was the signal. Far beyond Omega-7's outer perimeters, nestled within the shifting shadows of the nearby asteroid field, the Earth fleet sprang into action. Cloaked vessels, identical to Elara's, decloaked in a silent, coordinated ballet. Their comms, previously silent, flooded with a rush of orders and tactical data. General Theron, watching from the bridge of the flagship, gave the command, "Begin infiltration. Minimal resistance expected. Omega-7 is ours." The human invasion, long planned, precisely timed, was officially underway. On Omega-7, the station trembled. Structural plates groaned under the strain, and a faint vibration, almost imperceptible at first, intensified, radiating through the very floor beneath Elara's feet. The alarms intensified, a maddening shriek that scraped against her nerves. Zephyr, still on his knees, struggled against the paralyzing grip of the Nemesis agent. His breaths came in shallow, rattling gasps, liquid blue at the corners of his lips. Yet, even in his agony, his obsidian eyes, now clouded with a desperate urgency, fixed on Elara. There was no more arrogance, only a raw, terrifying desperation. "You don't understand," Zephyr rasped, trying to reach for her, his hand falling short. "That there was a greater reason." Elara watched him, a cold satisfaction warring with a flicker of confusion. A greater reason? For the annihilation of her home? "There is no reason, Zephyr, that justifies genocide," she spat, her voice laced with the accumulated pain of months of torment and loss. With a guttural groan, Zephyr pushed himself, not towards her, but towards the shimmering pond, his strength rapidly failing. His hand, shaking uncontrollably, fumbled for a hidden interface panel beneath the water's surface, a secret access point Elara had never known existed. He slammed his palm against it, overriding the central core's compromised systems, drawing upon a failsafe, a desperate final act. A holographic projection, far more ancient and powerful than any Elara had seen, erupted from the pond's surface. It pulsed with a spectral, unsettling light, displaying data streams and geometric patterns unlike anything Nexian. Elara gasped, her breath catching in her throat. The images were of Earth, not the planet she knew, but a deep geological scan, revealing impossible structures beneath its crust. The Abaddon device, Zephyr coughed, his voice barely a whisper, forcing each syllable out. An ancient alien artifact, buried beneath your world, for millennia. The holographic projection zoomed in, highlighting specific geological fault lines, energy conduits, and immense, dormant machinery deep within Earth's mantle. It is a power of unimaginable scale, so advanced, so unstable, its activation could trigger a dimensional collapse. Not just on Earth, but across the entire galaxy. Elara stared, her mind reeling, struggling to process the visual proof unfolding before her. The holographic images showed intricate schematics, energy readings, and terrifying predictive models of reality unraveling, of space-time tearing apart. The attacks. The 5 cities. The images shifted, revealing precisely calculated energy signatures corresponding to the exact locations of Zephyr's bombardments. Each impact point, each crater on Earth, aligned perfectly with a critical activation node of this ancient, terrible device. I tried to warn you, your species wouldn't listen, Zephyr choked out, droplets of viscous blue liquid now staining his lips. Your ideological contamination, your scientific curiosity, you were poking at a sleeping god. The attacks, they were not random. They were too precise. Calculated to neutralize those activation points. To protect us all. His obsidian eyes, now glazed with pain, flickered to her. I wanted to protect you too, by keeping you here. By making you my consort. But you were too curious, too dangerous. The station groaned again, a deep, shuddering tremor that shook the very foundations of the hanging garden. Outside, the alarms reached a fever pitch, accompanied by the muffled sounds of distant explosions and energy weapons fire. The Earth fleet was making landfall, slicing through Omega-7's now crippled defenses. Elara was paralyzed, her mind a maelstrom of conflicting truths. Vengeance, once so clear, so righteous, now tasted like ash. The man she had demonized, the tyrant who had destroyed her home, had perhaps acted out of a twisted, horrifying sense of preservation. His cruelty, his callous disregard for human life, was undeniable. But so too, now, was the possibility of a motivation beyond simple ambition. He was a monster, but a monster with a world-shattering secret, a terrible burden. Her bracelet, the source of her vengeance, now felt like a lead weight. The holographic display on her wrist flickered, showing 3 distinct, flashing options, each representing a path that would redefine not just her destiny, but the fate of 2 worlds, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The first option, revert virus/agent, activate core restoration protocol. This would reverse the damage to Omega-7 systems, stabilize Zephyr, and potentially halt the Earth invasion before it could consolidate. It meant sacrificing her vengeance, sacrificing Krell's sacrifice, and potentially leaving Earth vulnerable to Zephyr's twisted protection once more. The second option, allow full invasion, secure Nexian technology. This would let the Earth fleet complete its invasion, seize Omega-7, and acquire all Nexian technology, ensuring humanity's long-term defense. But it would be built on a foundation of Zephyr's alleged lie, potentially ignoring a galactic threat and ensuring Nexian subjugation, mirroring their own past suffering. The third option, activate Harmony Protocol, expose all data. This choice, whispered to her by Helena as a desperate, untested failsafe, was a fusion of Nexian and human cyber warfare. It would not fully destroy Omega-7, nor would it allow either side total victory. Instead, it would force a full system-wide data dump, projecting all known information about the Abaddon device, Nexian motivations, and human resistance efforts across both Earth and Nexian networks. It would expose every truth, every secret, every lie, to both sides, demanding an unprecedented, forced cooperation that neither world currently desired, but which the universe might demand for its very survival. Elara looked down at Zephyr, his breathing shallow, his luminous skin now a dull, fading purple. His black eyes, fixed on her, held a plea she could not ignore. She looked at the holographic projection of the Abaddon device, a silent, terrifying testament to a threat far beyond personal vendetta. The station continued to tremor, the sounds of battle growing closer. Her heart pounded, a chaotic rhythm of fear, regret, and a terrifying clarity. Her choice was not just about Earth or Nexus, or even her own soul. It was about the galaxy. With a movement born of profound conviction, a decision forged in the crucible of impossible truths, Elara Reed activated the final sequence on her device. Her eyes locked onto Zephyr's fading gaze. "You taught me the most valuable lesson," she whispered, her voice resonating with a new, fierce strength that transcended vengeance. "Never trust only one source of truth." And with that, the third, secret program initiated. A wave of pure, unfiltered data exploded across the cosmic networks, a digital torrent that would force both sides to confront their hidden demons, their bitter truths, and the horrifying reality that their survival depended on each other. The destiny of two worlds, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now hinged on a fragile, forced cooperation born from the ashes of war and the shocking revelation of an ancient, terrifying secret. And so, amidst the wailing alarms that tore through Omega-7, shattering its veneer of cold perfection, Elara Reed stood at the precipice. Her vengeance, a burning clarity forged in the dust of ZT-42 and the ashes of her home, had collided with a truth far more ancient and terrifying than personal betrayal. With Zephyr's agonizing revelation of the Abaddon device, a cosmic threat poised to unravel reality itself, the lines between hero and villain blurred, dissolving into the chilling complexity of galactic survival. In that trembling moment, with two worlds poised for a brutal invasion, Elara chose neither dominion nor annihilation. She chose truth. A torrent of raw, unvarnished data surged through the cosmic networks, a digital echo of her defiant whisper, a forced symphony of shared knowledge, demanding an unwilling cooperation from civilizations too long consumed by their own narratives. Between indifferent stars and colliding empires, an exiled woman redefined the rules, transforming a personal quest for retribution into the uncertain, necessary possibility of a shared future. This odyssey across the vast, unforgiving expanse of space is a stark reminder of how easily intentions can be twisted by fear, and how the pursuit of a perceived greater good can lead to unimaginable cruelty. It questions the very nature of heroism, asking us to confront the uncomfortable truth that even our enemies might harbor secrets crucial to our collective survival. Sometimes, the most profound victories are not won through conquest, but through the courage to shatter our own certainties and embrace a difficult, multifaceted reality. Elara's choice was one born of unbearable pressure and conflicting truths, a gamble on the very soul of two species. If you had stood in her place, faced with the Abaddon device and Zephyr's desperate plea, what path would you have chosen? Would you have sought vengeance, dominion, or the perilous hope of forced cooperation? Share your thoughts and your own moral compass in the comments below. Don't let the silent orbit of compelling stories pass you by. Like this video and subscribe to the Silent Orbit for more journeys into the heart of suspense and the furthest reaches of the unknown.